Shannon Sharpe has become an internet icon. He's everyone's favorite unk, but he's a Hall of Famer with 3 Super Bowl rings. Shannon put tight ends on the map to be more like wide receivers than blockers. But how did a 7th round pick who grew up in poverty become a NFL legend? So, how good was Shannon Sharpe actually? Shannon was born in poverty in Glenville, Georgia. Shannon's parents would split before he turned 1 year old. No indoor plumbing, and while you sleep, you get rained on. Basic needs were never guaranteed, and times were tough. Shannon's father would pass away in his early teens, so that left his grandmother and mother to raise him. Mary Porter was Shannon's grandmother. Shannon and his older brother Sterling would work on their farm all day, herding hogs, grinding feed, and picking tobacco all day long. Despite all this, Shannon and his brother loved playing sports. At Glenville High School, older brother Sterling was a superstar 3-sport athlete, playing basketball, football, and track. Sterling would go on to play Division I football at South Carolina University. Sterling is regarded as the greatest wide receiver to play at the university. Shannon Sharpe was no slouch himself. Just like his brother, he would be selected all county, all region, and all area in football. He would play all over the field, playing running back, quarterback, and linebacker. Shannon Sharpe would stay in state and play for Division II Savannah State. Sharpe would star for the Tigers. He would catch 192 balls for 3,744 receiving yards and finish with 40 touchdowns in his 4 years there. Sharpe would finish as a 3-time All-American. Going into the NFL draft, it would seem with great stats Sharpe put up, he would be someone an NFL team would want, but many teams come to the conclusion that Sharpe was too small to play tight end and too slow to play wide receiver. Back in the 90s, tight ends weren't expected to catch a lot of passes. Their main job would be to block like an offensive lineman. Shannon was viewed as a project and not an established player. Little did they know, Shannon would change the tight end position forever. Shannon Sharpe would read his combine grade on his and Chad Johnson's show, Nightcap. They gave Shannon a 37 out of 100 grade. This gave him an F grade for his combine report. On draft night, Shannon thought he would be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. He was totally wrong. He had to wait until pick 192 in the 7th round to hear his name called by the Denver Broncos. Shannon's rookie season would be what you expected of a 7th round choice that made the roster. Being a rookie in 1990 didn't even give Sharpe financial security. Shannon explained to get his own apartment and car, his brother Sterling had to co-sign because his credit score was so bad. Shannon's rookie salary was just $63,500. Anyways, back to what Shannon did on the field. He would have 7 receptions and 99 yards and a touchdown as a rookie. In his sophomore season in the NFL, he would get a little more opportunities, reeling in 22 receptions for 322 receiving yards and a touchdown. At this point in his young career, Shannon was in the shadow of his star brother Sterling Sharpe. Sterling was already an all-pro wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, but keep in mind, Sharpe was playing more of a wide receiver role in his first 2 seasons in the league. 1992, Sharpe would finally break out and prove he's a future star. Sharpe would catch 53 passes and have 640 receiving yards. Those stats led all tight ends in the league. This would give Shannon a Pro Bowl appearance. The Broncos had found John Elway, a hidden gem, to throw the ball to. In the 1993 season, Shannon Sharpe would put the NFL on notice. He would have 81 receptions for 995 yards and 9 touchdowns. Sharpe was named first team All-Pro. This was remarkable as Shannon and his brother Sterling were both All-Pros. In 1994, Shannon would finally pass the 1,000-yard mark. He would reel in 87 receptions for 1,010 yards and have 4 touchdowns. This would give him another Pro Bowl appearance alongside his brother Sterling. Unfortunately for Sterling, he would suffer a neck injury that would be career-ending. Under new head coach Mike Shanahan, the Broncos would take a step back in 1995. Shannon Sharpe would still make the Pro Bowl this season. They would miss the playoffs with a record of 8-8. Shannon Sharpe would have an injury bug that season for the first time, missing 3 games. He would still finish with 756 receiving yards, which would put him 2nd for tight ends that year. In 1996, Mike Shanahan's Broncos were destined for greatness. They would finish the year 13-3. In that 96 season, Shannon had 80 receptions for 1,062 yards with an impressive 10 touchdowns. Shannon would have some iconic moments this season. In Week 12, in the middle of a 34-8 blowout versus the Patriots, he would pull out a red telephone and say this:
"President, we need a National Guard. We need as many men as you can spare because we are killing the Patriots. So call the dogs off. Send the National Guard, please. They need emergency help. Please help these folks."
Denver's season seemed to have the Super Bowl written all over it. In shocking fashion, the Jacksonville Jaguars would upset the Denver Broncos 30-27 in the divisional round. This was a devastating loss after being the 1 seed in the AFC. John Elway was 37 years old now. With urgency to win a championship in the following seasons, the Broncos were out for blood in the 97 season, starting off 6-0. 5 of the 6 victories came in double-digit wins. They were dominating the competition. Following the next 10 games, after this, Shannon would cross the 80-yard mark 5 times. Shannon Sharpe would have 7 72 receptions with a career-best 1,107 yards. Shannon was by far the best tight end in the league. No tight end even came within 300 yards of him. In the playoff wildcard round, the Broncos would seek revenge on the Jaguars. They would dominate Jacksonville in the opening round of the playoffs, winning 42-17. Then came the Chiefs with Tony Gonzalez, another Hall of Fame tight end who they would beat 14-10 in the divisional round. In the AFC Championship game, they played the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ultimately, the Broncos would win this game 24-21. Finally, Shannon would play in the big game. It was going to be the Green Bay Packers versus the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 32. The Packers had won the Super Bowl the year before. This game would go back and forth. The game would be tied 24-24 in the fourth quarter, with just 2 minutes remaining in the game. Star running back Terrell Davis would punch it in for a touchdown. The Broncos defense would hold. Shannon Sharpe and the Broncos would win the Super Bowl. John Elway would finally win a Super Bowl in his age 37 season. Shannon's story of going from Division II player to a Super Bowl champion was inspiring. A big inspiration for Sharpe winning this championship was carrying on his brother's legacy. He would give his Super Bowl ring to his brother Sterling. But Shannon and the Broncos weren't satisfied with just one ring. They wanted more. And oh, did they go get them. In the following 1998 season, the Broncos would take their game to the next level, going 13-0 to start the year. Eventually, they would finish 14-2. The Broncos were so dominant that they outscored opponents by 192 points on the year. Shannon would have less yards this year, but make it by having 10 touchdowns. He had 64 receptions for 768 yards. He was still named first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. Come playoff time, the Broncos would dominate, winning all 3 of their playoffs by at least 13 points. The Broncos would defeat the Falcons 34-19 in the Super Bowl to complete the back-to-back. Unfortunately for Shannon and the Broncos, John Elway would walk off into the sunset, retiring after the season. This left the Broncos in dire need of a new quarterback. The 1999 season wouldn't go well for Shannon. It was injury-riddled for Sharpe, and he would only play 5 games. In the 2000 offseason, Shannon Sharpe would find himself as a free agent. Shannon played 10 seasons for the Broncos, winning 2 Super Bowls and being a 4-time All-Pro selection. Sharpe would take his talents to the Baltimore Ravens. This team had an all-time great defense combined with star running back Jamal Lewis. Shannon would fit right in as a vertical threat and veteran presence. In that season, Shannon would lead the Ravens in receiving yards with 110 and receiving touchdowns with 5. The Baltimore Ravens would finish 12-4. This Ravens defense, led by Ray Lewis, allowed just 10.3 points per game. In the wildcard round, Shannon would face his former team. Against the Denver Broncos, Shannon would have 3 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown. Maybe they should have kept him around. They would beat the Broncos 21-3. It was time for the Titans next. The Titans were the number 1 seeded team. Sharpe would only have 1 catch, but that 1 catch would go for 53 yards. Baltimore would win the game 24-10. Then, Shannon and the Ravens would have to play the Oakland Raiders. To start the second quarter, Shannon would have the greatest play of his career. Showing off his speed, Shannon would catch the ball at his own 12-yard line and run it back for a 96-yard touchdown. This would even be the only touchdown scored for the Ravens that game. Sharpe would find himself in his 3rd Super Bowl. Shannon wouldn't make a big impact in the game, but he didn't need to, as the Baltimore Ravens would win 34-7 over the Giants to secure their first Super Bowl title in team history. Shannon Sharpe now has 3 Super Bowl rings. He would spend the 2001 season with the Ravens going for 73 catches and 811 yards. This type of season would put Shannon back into the Pro Bowl. The Ravens were looking to go back-to-back in 2001. Unfortunately, after a win in the wild card over the Miami Dolphins, the Ravens would lose 27-10 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This would be Shannon's last season in Baltimore. Entering his age 34 season, Shannon would rejoin his former team, the Denver Broncos. He would have 2 solid seasons with his former team before calling it a career. After the 2003 season, Shannon Sharpe would finish his career as an 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, and 3-time Super Bowl champion. Shannon would be inducted into the Football Hall of Fame in 2011. Shannon changed the tight end position forever. Before him, tight ends weren't receiving threats. In today's game, tight ends are a vital part of offense. Just look at players like Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce. Shannon would finish his career in the top 5 receiving yards at his position. Today, Shannon has become an internet icon. His show with Chad Johnson, Nightcap, has received over 1 million subscribers in under a year. But let's all remember why Shannon got the chance to be on the TV in the first place. For more of the best football content on YouTube, subscribe.